Hello and welcome back to another episode of 100 Days of Code with me, Lilly Code. Today is day 82 and thank you so much for joining me here today. So we're continuing on with this React front to back course that we've been doing for the last 3 days or so, and it's still at the price tag of $13.99 for 3 more hours. If anybody is interested in getting this or any other Udemy courses, it's just I love Udemy. So let's get straight into this now today. Great. So just getting up where we were in the course, I thought I had the right page, but then actually listening to him, I've already done this. So we're down here. I have it. Great. Cool. So we did all this. So he's just going through the handle click events that we did in yesterday's video. We've done this. Okay, yeah, so we've done that next. Cool. Grand. So now what we're doing is we're back working on our average rating. So we have this average rating here at the top of the file, which gives us the average rating of the different ratings that are on the page. So if I just pull this up, you'll be able to see. So it's the average of 20, 16 and 20, and the average of those three numbers is 18.67. We've rounded it to 2 decimal places and we have 3 reviews here. So this is just some statistics about what's going on. So fabulous, and let's continue. So we're going to work on this same component, the stats. So that is here in feedback stats. So perfect. So what we want to do is pass back the average. Yeah, cool. So he's also added a check here, just if there isn't a number. So if we don't have a number, then just show 0. So if is none, so if it's not a number, this average to fixed value. So this is going to be a ternary statement. So this is the thing we're going to evaluate to true. So if average to fix is not a number, if this evaluates to true, then we want to show 0, and otherwise we want to show average to fixed. There we go. Perfect. So lovely jubbly. So yeah, so if we end up deleting all of our things here, we should see that in action now. So let's just see that. So if I delete these 3, we won't have an average. Okay. Okay. And okay. So that's after handling that case first now, in the case that we don't have a value being passed in. So we've no feedback items and our average rating is still coming up as 0 because we've put that check in. So perfect. And that check is this check, the ternary statement that we just entered here. This could even be bigger, guys, couldn't it? Yeah. Cool. So he's after putting in this to fixed now. He has his fixed to 1 decimal place. So let's just do the same, reload. And because this isn't saved in local storage, when we reload the page, it just goes back to the previous value. So we can implement something that it actually saves these deletes in the back end. So we're also just going to import the checking the prop. So we want to check the prop type, so we will import PropTypes. PropTypes from, and it's dash from. That ain't how you smell from. It's not how you smell from either. PropTypes, that's not how you spell Oh god. Okay, great. So now we've imported our prop types and we can use them. So he doesn't have his in these parentheses, so let's leave them out. That does make a difference. So we're just doing it a named import like that, or I think named import is actually when you put it in the parentheses. I'm not sure, but there's a difference, so it is important anyway. So then we can actually use these. So we'll say feedback stats, which is this component, dot prop types, types. Damn. So yeah, prop types, but we want it to be a lowercase p, prop types, and this is going to be equal to the object that we're defining. So, and then we pass in the different things that we want to check the types of the properties. So we have our feedback props, or what have we called them? Feedback items, cool. So feedback items, and this is, we want to check the prop type. So we're adding a rule here to have types added, and it's going to be an array, and then it's a required array. So cool. I'll save that. And perfecto. So now what are we going to learn about? Cool. So now we're going to do form input and state. So that's cool. Forms are always coming up. They're very common, so it's great to get used to forms. You know, it's a requirement in coding. Trust me to choke on a sip of water, but there you go, that's what happened. So I'm just going to add a new component. We're creating our new component here for our form. So feedback form and .jsx, perfect. And then we want to do underscore or FCE to create our boilerplate. Bam, what is it again? I'm new to these shortcuts, but they're very handy. Or FCE, yeah, underscore or FCE. And you hit enter. Sorry, it's not tab, it's enter. So cool. And then in here we'll just output the word form for now. Okay, so then back in our app.js we want to use this. So here above our feedback stats, we're going to import our feedback form. So I'll just tab in here. Feedback form. And that should automatically import that for us. So fab, save. So the first thing we want to do in our feedback form is wrap it in a card, because we want it to be wrapped in a card. So rather than a div, we will use our card that we've created. It just has some styling. Cool. And we need to import card as well. So let's do that. We'll probably have an error down here saying exactly that. Or what was that error that we just had? Yeah. Yes, card is not defined. So just because we haven't actually imported card, so we can see here, feedback form line 4, it can't find card, so we just need to import it. So we'll do that. You need to import the different components that you're trying to use. So card from, and I think it's just, is it up in shared? Yeah, shared. Ay, 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 mamma mia, my fingers are going so crazy, oh my god, I don't know. Shared card, perfect. So that's what we need, and then we will continue. So now inside the card we're going to add our form. So that's just a form tag like so. This is inbuilt to HTML, so that's grand. Why is that given out now? It's just a form. But I'm going to just keep going because that doesn't... Right, so form, let's add a H2 in here. Okay. Okay. Oh, it was just because I hadn't completed. I haven't wrote anything in here yet, I think. I don't know. So how, because that's fine. That's how that should look. How we... So what's he going to say? Okay, how would you rate your service with us? How would you rate your service? How would you rate yours with us? Question mark. Hopefully 5 stars. 10. So then underneath here we're going to add a rating select. So he's just added a comment here and said to do rating select. Cool. And you can get some great plugins and installs in your extensions that when you add a to-do in your code, it'll highlight it for you and you can traverse through your to-do. So it's a good way of actually keeping note of the things you want to come back to that might not be, they're not breaking changes, they're going to be improvements that you want to add something additional. You can add to-dos and then you can get extensions to help you manage those to-dos so you don't forget any of them, and then you can search your whole code base for the word to do as well. So it's very common in programming to see this. So then we're going to have a div and we want the class to be input group. We'll tab, and then in here we want an input. So let's close that. Cool. And then the input type is going to be placeholder. So we just have a text, sorry. Yes, of course, what am I doing? So the input type is text, and then we are adding our placeholder property, which is just going to be the text that is displayed in this input. So let's add that in too. So here we'll just say write a review. And then we also want a button. Cool. And here we'll just say send, to send the value, send the information. So we're also going to use state in this component. The React imports go at the very top, so just convention, not actually, you know, necessary, but you'll see it commonly done like this, so nice to stick with convention. So use state at the top. It makes you a better coder, really, at the end of the day, if you've readable code and you're sticking to the recommendations as opposed to just going off on a whirl, you know. So here we're going to have our use state, and we're going to have text and set text, and we will equal this to use state parentheses. As always, should have been an equals there. Use state parentheses. Perfect. And then we'll also create a function to handle the text change. And this is going to take the event. It's an arrow function. And for the moment we'll just console log out. Console log e.target.value. Yeah. Perfect. Cool and grand. So now we'll just call this set text here instead. So now what we're going to do is when we run this handle text change, we're going to set the text to the event that was passed through, and the event is just going to be whatever the user typed in. So perfect. So down here on our input now we'll add a value, so I'll just bring all this down so we can see it nice and tidy. Great. So I'll also add a value property. Value, and this will be equal to our text. Cool. So there we go. Yeah, didn't even look at the page. So here we have our how would you rate your service with us, and you can send in your various information. So it looks like we have some errors. That's okay. So let's click send and see if we get that in. Oh, we didn't continue to add it in the console, did we? So let's keep that console log for the moment, and we're not actually doing anything with this handle text change. So what we want to do is on click, or we can put it at the top of our form actually. So on submit. So basically when you have a form and you have a button then with the type of submit, on the form you can add an on submit, and this tells the form what to do when you submit the form. So what we want to do is handle the text change, run this function which is going to take the event and then set the text to that event. So let's reload our page. Let's type something more in here. And why ain't you typing? You performed a value without an on-change handler. Yes, it will make a read-only field. Okay. Cool. Yes, so sorry, this handle text change, rather than being on the submit, this should have actually been telling it to do something with that value coming in. So we want to say on change on this input, and then we also need another function to submit that button. So we'll keep that in mind. So here what we want to do is say on change and then run this handle text change function. So now if we save and reload, how are we doing? You provided a value. Okay, cool. So now let's see. Ta-na-na. Why you no like it? The type it. You no like it, type it, baby. Okay, so value should be in not like this. So what we're actually doing here with this value is we're saying this is the text we want to use. So we can see here this is grayed out. We're not actually using this. So when we're setting it, we're not setting anything because we haven't used text anywhere. And that's because instead of this being in parentheses, it should have been in curly. Instead of being in quotes, it should have been in parentheses, because we want that we're accessing that variable there. That's why you use the curly parentheses when you want to do something, as opposed to this is just a string, like the type of text is just a string. Whereas here we're actually hooking it up to something. We're doing something a bit more computational than just a string. So now, let's see, mis amigos. So perfect, write a review. Oh, there we go. Bam, loving it. And then send. Cool though, great, that's positive. We still need to do something with that response and everything when we send it, but great. So before we submit it and go and actually handle what we're going to do on submission of this, because at the moment we're not doing anything, we just have a button, a submit button, but we want to first of all create a custom button component, so we can reuse this button wherever we want, and we can pass through colors and stuff as we've seen previously in the last couple of days, in order to change things on the fly as we use this component. So in our shared components here, we have our shared folder. We're going to create a new component, and this will be button.jsx. Perfect. So we do _ CFE. Cool. And we want some props. So our props will be children, version, type, and is disabled. So if the button is disabled. Cool. So then in here we can create our button. So we want to return a button from this component. That's what we were making here. So our button is going to have the type of text, button type. No, we're passing through the type, so we can change this on the fly. So this will be type, yes. Then we also want to say disabled, and pass through is disabled, so we can pass this through as we want. Version as well we'll do that with, and then we want to show the children on the button. So perfect. Cool boola. And I'll use class name. And I'm going to set this here to a template string. So there you use your backticks. Cool, so I'll add the class of button btn, and then we also want to add the class of btn dash, and here we want to inject in a variable, and this is going to be version. Funnily enough. So let me just drop all of those down for readability. So like so, like so, like so, bada boom, perfect. So what this button's dash version is doing is, if we come to our index.css file here, we can see we have the button class. We should do. Come on button, where are you? Let's just search for it. So there's our button class. And then here we can see these are the versions. So we've button primary, secondary. So yeah, we just have button primary and secondary, but we can pass these in as the version when we create the button, and then it will add one of these classes first, depending on which one we specify. So we'll also add some default props to our button. So we'll come down to the end of our file and say button.default props, and equal that to version, and the default version is going to be primary. The default type will be button, and then the default is disabled will be false, because we want it to be clickable unless we've specified that we shouldn't. So then we're also going to add our default types as well. So we'll say button.PropTypes is equal to, and define that object as well. So we need to import that too. So we will import PropTypes from PropTypes. Cool. Okay, so we're just going to define our prop types here. So we have children version, but let's finish children first, and this is going to be prop types of node. That node is required because we're passing through the node, and is required because we need this. If we want to make a button, we need to know what data or what we're going to put into that button. So then version is PropTypes.string, and I don't really think that's required. Cool. And then type, yeah, because we have a default, so type is going to be PropTypes.string again, and then we just need is disabled, and this will be PropTypes.boolean, bool, because it's a boolean. So now back in our feedback form component, we can actually use this. So let's do that. We can pass all of that stuff into our button. So rather than just using a standalone generic HTML button, we're going to use our own created button component instead now. So great. So I hit enter there, and it imported fab. So we'll also just add our closing parentheses, and then we need to pass through our props. So the first thing that is required is the children, which is going to be what's in between these two tags. So that's send, we just want the text send. Then we have the type is still going to be submit, and we want the version. Secondary, and this should be a string. So let's have a look at let's just reload this to make sure before we start barking up trees. So here we go, we have our button, great, and it's our sound button there. So if we take away version secondary, let's have a look at what our primary button looks like, because primary is the default anyway. So if we don't pass any value, we get this purple button. Cool. Okay, great. So what we'll do next is we'll disable this button in the case that we don't want them to be able to send something. So we can enable validation on the button to disable it when required. So we want a review that's at least 10 messages. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll come back. So we'll validate it that it's at least 10 messages. So we'll come back here to our button component. We will duplicate this set state, and here we're going to have btn disabled, and we want set btn disabled, and then we also want message and set message. So message and set message. Cool. Cool. So now down on our button we can actually use this disabled prop. So we'll say is disabled, and this is going to be equal to the button disabled. Yep. And then we also want a div down here, still in our form. Okay, so this is where we're going to put our validation message. Yes, of course. Okay, so for the moment I'll just put in a message here of message just so you can see this. So I'll give it an initial state of message. Cool. And then down below we'll add a conditional statement that will show this message if the validation isn't met. So we can just put this in our curly parentheses because we want this to evaluate something. We want something to happen here. So we'll say message, which is going to be from our state. So if message, then we want to add a div. So we'll say div, and the div is going to have a class name of message. Message, cool, and then we'll pass through our message as well. So whatever's in our message will output. So let's save. So now we should have a message, and our message should be initialized as message. So there we go, we can see that, fab. And we have the CSS already in our global CSS styles for this class message, which is why it's purple. So then we'll have our handle text change. Yeah, so in here when we have our event, first thing we want to do is check if the text is equal to nothing. So we'll say if text is equal to nada, then we want to open up our parentheses and do something. So here we'll set btn disabled to true. So we want to disable the button if there's nothing that's been typed in. We'll also set the message to null. To null, and then we'll add an else if. So we'll have else if. So in the other case we want to do something else. So in here instead we'll check if the text is not equal to empty, and if the text.trim dot length is less than or equal to 10. So we want it to be at least 10 characters. And in this case, we will set the message to your review. Text must be at least 10 characters. Text must be at least 10 characters. And we'll also say set button disabled, BTN disabled, and here we'll set it to true, because we still want the button to be disabled because we don't have enough text. And then we have our final else statement, which will be once everything else is gone great. So yeah, this is just important to note as well with your ifs, else ifs, and your elfs. When you're starting with your if, else, ifs, and elves, you know what I'm talking about. When you're when you're setting up your if blocks, and then you have an else or another if and else, you know, if you have if, else ifs, and elses, what you want to do is say the condition that you want to validate to be true. The thing that you're looking for, you're thinking, right, I'm setting up an if statement because if this thing works out the way I want this to happen. You generally tend to put that as the last thing and do the catches beforehand. Do you get me? So that took me a while to get into my head, probably a year, 2 years of programming. Did it finally click for me that the thing that you want to happen, so the positive case with everything going right, is generally in your else, and then you have your catches before. So, well, if it's not full or if it's not partial, or, you know, if you don't have all the information, you have your checks first. So if check, where something might be slightly off. So in this case, we have no text. So it comes in here and it checks, you know, because it just works better like this. Because basically, if you're going to come in, first of all, you want to check if you've no text. Then you want to check if your length is less than 10. So it's logical, you know, because if you haven't wrote anything, it's going to come into the first thing first. Then if it's going to come into the second thing otherwise. And look, if it works, whichever way you lay it out, great. But if you're having problems with your if else's, then I found that solutions can be, you just haven't thought about the layout right, and the thing that you want to go correctly should be the last thing, because you've sort of caught all the problems before, and then you have the final else, which is what happens if it goes right. Whereas in your brain you're thinking about, well, what do I want to go right? So you march in with that first, but you need to put that last, and also think about the things that you need to check for or catch for while you're doing the if and else blocks at all. So yeah, so here we'll set the message to null because we don't need our message, and we'll also set button disabled to false because we want to be able to bada bing to submit our button here now. So we'll say set btn. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, coughing and sneezing. What's going on? Well, nothing at all. Sometimes you just cough and sneeze, don't you? That's what it's like being a little old human. Anyway, people will be like, she's an alien. No, I'm only messing, like, whatever. I'm not, like, I'm clearly human. Why did I even validate that? But, oh, funny. You just have to laugh, don't you? So now we're going... oh, the tangents. So now we're just going on to rating our select component. So perfect. So let's just reload this actually and check. So on our handle text change, this should be doing all this now. So if we reload, it's empty. The button should be disabled at first glance because this is what's being hooked up to that input box. So, come on now. Why is this checking so long? Okay, I'm going to just leave that for a moment and continue. Well, that's not disabled either, so... So let's say handle text change. Handle text change is linked to our input. When it changes, oh, so still not set message to null. Well, I shouldn't start off with the initial state as message anymore. I don't need that there, so let's get rid of that. Oh, and our message was displaying or not dependent on whether there was a message. I mean, even with a few spaces, it ain't disabling, love. So here we have is disabled, yeah, is set to button disabled. So if it is disabled, yeah, that should be working. Is disabled. So is the button disabled, and then we want to pass through our prop. Yeah. Let's give this initial state of false as well. See if that does anything, just to see if it's linking up, which it should be. Bada bing. What is going on, mate? Alright, we've got something wrong, obviously. That's how it works, innit? So, is disabled, button disabled is the property that we're passing through. It's a boolean, fabulous. Okay, yes, so it knows it's this. Button disabled, it knows it's that. So here we're setting this value to true. The button is disabled. That's getting passed through to the disabled prop on the button. And this should be called, no, that's correct, disabled. Yeah, and that's passing through the prop is disabled. That's coming from the other components. So sorry, this is a right head scratcher, this. You want to have a big old bean to scratch on this one, because I'm scratching. So button disabled. Yeah, that's just a prop. Yeah. Which is going through to our actual button, which is a button with disabled. And the prop is disabled, which is changing from true to false, is being passed through. Button disabled is what's being passed through. We're just calling it is disabled here. We could call it button disabled. Well, it's better to call it is disabled because it's an on and off switch. But just to try and see, why aren't you disabled, mate? How come you're letting everybody click you? So if we go back there, guys, what am I doing? Something so simple. It's just a button, innit? Let's set is disabled to true initially as well, and just see if that works. Come on, love. For God's sake. The button will drive you around the bend, lads. Jesus. Yesterday we were sucking diesel. Today we're sucking petrol. I don't know what to tell you. So no, it's grand. I'm only messing. So that's just an Irish saying I was saying yesterday. But let's moving on. Oh, gas. So let's just see what he's going to do here. It'll click, you know. I'm not going to just go around in circles with it. So we have text set to text should be a string. We'll initialize it as such. and so should our message. So we'll just initialize these as an empty string. It's just good practice. So grand, tell it what it is that you're doing, you know, so now it knows the message is a string. Okay, so we want another piece of state for the rating. So rating, and then we will set the rating. Set rating, and rating is going to be a number. So we'll pass in an initial value of 10. Cool. So yeah, down here in our return statement we have our to do to create our rating select. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a new component for this. And this is going to be called rating select.jsx. So rating select, need capital rating select.jsx. Cool, and then we'll do underscore or FCE. This is so handy. I'm getting quite used to that now. That's great. So here we will just one moment. So yeah, so we have a rating select. We'll just add text in here as always for the moment. Rating select. You know what you're doing, girl. So rating select, and then we want to use this inner app component. No, in our feedback form, yes. So in here we will add la rating la select. So rating select, and close that off there. Cool. Cool, so then in our rating select we're going to just import use state in order to keep track of the rating. So use state. Ding. So just use state from React. Da-na-na. My fingers don't like me all of the time. They don't work sometimes. No, they love me. Come on, they're my fingers, and I love you too, guys. All 10 of you, all 8 of you, and the thumbs too. Oh, I swear, you just have to get enjoyment, you know, the small things in life, guys. Just laugh at yourself, you know, have a laugh, have a joke. Just don't take it too seriously. We're still learning here, aren't we? So selected, and then set selected. So same as always. I'm going to stop explaining these like to the deep core level that I have, because the whole 100 days I've just been rehashing, which is fabulous, you know, it's great. And if that's what you want, you know, I'll keep going, but I just don't want to bore people if they have been following along thinking, come on, you said this loads of times, you know. So cool. And if anyone wants me to cover anything, guys, let me know. The world is your oyster when it comes to requesting whatever you want. So cool. Where did he get that from? Oh, he just got it from like, okay, we'll go and get that now in a minute. So then we're going to set this to 10, and then we will create a function, handle change, and we'll pass in an event. So this is equal to la function. Do it, open the parentheses, Cool, so that's all we're going to do for the moment. And then I just need to go and get this rating from his GitHub. So, GitHub, Brad, where you at, my man? So GitHub, let's just type that in again, because I recently went to his project, and we'll get this code. We'll get this code, we'll get it in, we'll get it working, we'll do it. So, just getting comfortable here for a mo while that's loading. Why not, you know? Chill. Take a little break. Well, I'm just waiting for the page to load, but sorry for the yawning, guys. Sometimes you're tired. I hope I'm not making you yawn by that, like, law of association with yawning, you know? With lawning. When you lawn, other people lawn with you. Sorry, I said lawn by accident. So, we go back to our feedback app here. And then we'll just come to our commits. Might be a good place to start. So, yeah, you can see that. So here we go. Code. View code. Where? Oh, where? Where are the buttons? Okay. So cool. So 3 branches. Let's have a goosey gander. Main. That sounds like the main deal. So let's go into main. And then we should be able to see the commits. And then we should be able to go to the rating select file. And we are in chapter 4, section 4 already. Perfect. Of 16. Impressive. If I do say so myself. Well, it's just great, you know, good. So let's just go find this, you know. So we're going to components here. We are now going to feedback. Rating select. Excusez-moi. Excusez-moi. My palios. So this is what we're returning now. This is what I need to copy. So it's just a load of radio buttons. So rather than typing all that out, he said just go and copy it. So, alright, Brad, if you insist. If you insist. And save. And then let's go back to our La Projecta. And give it a reload. Give it a little spin. And see what's going on. I'm expecting great things. Wonderful things, in fact. So. Cool. Sorry about the yawning. I didn't mean to bore you or myself. No, I'm only messing. I don't know why I'm yawning. I think I'm going to get an early night tonight. If I seem to be this tired. No, I'm grand. Bit of energy. Come on, you know. Get one life. You only get one go. Jazz up. I'm only messing. So, oh, it's such a strange little cookie, but why not? So, just be yourself, guys. Who cares, you know? There's only one person out there like you. I love little pep talks while we're waiting on things. So, yeah, you know, just do it. Talking so casually now, but who cares, you know? This is the casual corner. We're just here to learn in a fun way. You know, I'm not trying to be fun or whatever. I'm just learning how I learn, and, you know, just do your best. Get on. Do your best. And one thing I'd say is if it's getting a bit frustrating or something, just get out for a walk, you know. There's no need to be sitting around, which I could take my own advice as well sometimes. Sometimes you just sit there and you power through. And it's just not going great. But so we have an extra parentheses here, we can say. So, you know, I need to listen to that advice as well. But just do your best. Try and have a laugh with it. I'd say even maybe, like, you know, I wouldn't be sitting here laughing if I was doing it myself or if I yawned. I'd just yawn and get on with it. So it's actually even teaching me the value of... I know I'm not communicating with anybody in a room right now, but I'm communicating with all of you people watching, you know. So it feels like you are here with me, to be honest, like it does. So maybe get a study group together for yourself, you know. It's just giving me the idea a study group would be a great idea. So as you can see, I'm having problems clicking here, but just to have a bit of camaraderie. And to be honest, when I was coding, I looked for a study group for ages and nobody wanted to code with me. So yeah, but now I think there's a lot more options there for people. Meetup.com, go on meetup.com. They have loads of meetups for all different skill levels and interests. I mean, there's knitting meetups, there's drinking meetups, there's eating meetups, there's coding meetups. That's the best. There's loads of coding meetups you can go and watch people do. I've met so many great coders through coding meetups. So things like that, you know, and just get yourself out there and try and have a bit of a laugh with it, because it's a long L road. It's a good old slog, but it's worth it. So try and bring in the fun where you can. Is everything just frozen now? If I end up losing this video, I'll be la crapio. That didn't make any sense, but like I won't be a happy camper, you know. Well, this is just not the best now. Guys, I don't know what to do. It's after freezing 50 minutes in, but my video is still recording here. So look, I think I'll just wrap it up in case this breaks on me now. 50 minutes is close enough to an hour for possibly losing the hour, if that's what's going to happen. So thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining me, Lily Code, on another episode of Code with Lily Code. It's my pleasure to have you guys here with me. I appreciate it so much. All my wonderful, beautiful, fantastic, wonderful people out there just that are enjoying either watching me or are enjoying learning about coding. Whichever one you are, I really appreciate it. So thanks a million. And look, have an absolutely swimming, fantastic, beautiful weekend. From your mate, Lily Code. Thanks so much, guys. Now to try and fix this. Abort, abort. Jump out of the ship. No, I don't know. You know, we're going to try some things here, so. Ta-na-na. Oh my god, that fixed it. Oh, great. We can just keep going. You're like, oh, I was ready to sign off there, Leanne. Don't want to hear you going on for another 10 minutes. Well, we'll just finish it now. Great. I just clicked escape and that fixed my problem. So next time I'll remember that. So if we just close this over and open this up and go to localhost. Local host. Where's the host? It's local. Oh, fantastic. So we have our rating service and that is not working like a radio button should. They're highlighting all right, great, but they ain't selecting. So maybe that has something got to do with okay, yeah, so they're just, I don't know, that's the idea. Okay, so we need to do something with this selected value. Cool. Yeah, so in HTML, in HTML on a label, we would have HTML called out. But in JSX, so it will be like this. Whereas in JSX, we use HTML4. It's one of the changes like class name. It's the same as that. So you just need to remember it's HTML4 instead of just HTML on your labels. Yeah. Oh, that's why, of course. Yeah, of course. So the only reason that 10 is selected is because we've set our state and we've hard coded it as 10. So if we go up here, this is our selected. Let's change this to 5 and you'll see that value change, but we're going to use it in the proper way. and actually cause it to dynamically change these in un momento. Why is everything so slow? Your girl still needs a new laptop, yo. Yeah, your girl does need a new laptop. So something else to say to all you guys, like if anyone is interested in doing anything like this, do you know what I mean, getting themselves out there, just do it. Like my equipment now is a little bit better. I've upgraded as I've went along, you know. I'm in a job, I'm getting paid, thank God, you know, like thank whoever you want to thank, or thank your mate, thank your parents, thank yourself, you know, whoever made these things possible. And if it's not possible, I'm sorry, and keep working towards your goals, because you can do it. Like definitely, I don't know everyone's situation, you know, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to encourage you guys here, but all I was going to say was that I started with pretty crappy equipment, you know. I don't have anything special here, and I built it up as I went along, and you know, so just do it, you know. It's never going to be a right time, just start. Cool. So then in here in our handle change, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be insensitive there, but you know, I just need to remember that I'm not speaking to, I could be speaking to the whole world here, you know. You never know anything, so I'm not presuming anything. I just want to give you guys guidance and encouragement, and that's it really, you know. So my heart is in the right place, and yeah, I just wish you all the best. Sending love your way, guys. Cool. So if we console log this out and then we say type of, we'll see that this is la string. La stringio. La string. What? Stringio. La string. Yep. Stringio. What? A string. Yeah. Off my jacket. Where? Of a ball of twine. What? Sorry. Oh, why not? So if I open up my console here. Okay, let's open the console. Cool. So we can see there the type of, clicking on these buttons, the event being passed through is a string. So we just want to change this to a number. So to the number, the word just shot right out of my brain there. If we want to convert this to a number, I still don't think that was the word I'm looking for, but same thing. If we want to convert that to a number instead of a string, we can just add a plus, and that will do that for us. So now if we click on the button, you're going to see some numbers. So console, oh there we go. So type of is a number. So now if we take off type of, we'll actually see la number. So now let's click. We have to reload. Damn. So now what we can do is we can set selected to this value, but first let's just click, seeing as we went to that trouble. So there we go, we can see our numbers coming through, and then that's going to either keep one of the radio buttons down below selected, because we've also used this down below. So in each of our inputs here we can see checked is checked. It will be checked if selected is equal to 3 in the case of the radio button that says 3, and this one will be selected in the case that selected triple equals 2. So if the button we've clicked on is 2, if the one selected from the event being passed through is 2 and 2 gets passed through, then this will evaluate to true, and this will be the one that's checked, number 2. So that's how it all links up. So we, instead of console logging here, we can just use set selected and paste that save, and this should work. Unlike that input form that's driving me, or the button, sorry I should say. And we'll just reload. Oh, we will just reload. Wicka rewind. No, that's a rewind. Okay, so perfect. So now we can see when we click the button, it's remaining selected. That's because of everything I said. So when you click the button, the event is fired. The event is fired is on what was actually clicked. It's handling the event, and the event is the click of the mouse and the number that gets sent through then. So you'd have that information in the event. The event holds a good bit of information. So what was actually done, and how and what was clicked will be passed through in the event. So let's just console log out this E to show you what the event is, because that wasn't a great explanation. So console log E, let's save that. So if we console log out the event, so when we come in here and we change something, each of these inputs has an on change property on it, and that on change is firing the handle change function, which we have up above. That takes in the event, so you'll see the event now in a moment, and then with the event we're setting the state of our selected here. So by using set selected, which is the function that sets the state of the variable that we've also destructured, the selected variable here, we're setting selected to the number that was passed through, because we've transformed it to a number. So say if we click 3, it'll come down here, oh, something has changed, we've clicked this, so it'll run the handle change function, it'll take the event because we've told it to, it'll change this selected to 3, in this case it will be 1, but whichever one you selected will be the value that's passed through. It sets it to that, and then this checked gets set to true, and this is the one that remains selected. So that's how that's working, guys. So let's just have a quick look at the console log while we're at it, you know. So now if I click bada bing, so there you can see, look, we have loads of information in here. So we know it was on change, we know the type was a change event, and you can do different things in here, you know. But see, so we have our value. So the input was number 1. Sorry, I just selected some random number there. That's something different. So let's select another one. So here we go, and this, so the input is num5. It knows the ID of the input that was clicked there. So you get your values passed through, and it has different information, and then checked as true. So perfect, guys. So that's the event that gets passed through. So guys, thank you so much. We've set up our radio buttons now, and we'll continue. We'll figure out why that button is not being disabled. With a fresh pair of eyes tomorrow, that should be no hassle to me whatsoever. Sometimes you just need to step away for clarity. You know, all these little humdingers of information, and then you forget to apply them. Like, you know, it's funny, it's easy to tell people, oh, this is great, you know, step away, you'll get clarity, and then there's me banging my head off the keyboard for 4 bloody hours. So in other instances, you know, so just do your best, and your best is more than good enough. And just by tipping away at this, you know, you'll surprise yourself. You'll just keep on getting better and better. When I was learning, I stuck in an hour a day, some days even more. You know, you do just have to persevere. That's the one thing I will say. There's a few bits to be learned, so you just have to learn them. But anybody, absolutely anybody can do it. And, you know, I wish you all the best on your coding journey, guys, and have an absolutely wonderful weekend. And thanks so much for joining me for more madness, songs and coding today. I really appreciate it. I love you all. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy.